Peace. Peace is meant to be our natural state. A whirlwind never outlasts the morning, nor a violent rain the day. Just as earth and sky return to peace, so should we. Those who act with violence become violent. Those who act with virtue become virtuous. Those who act in the spirit of the Tao become Tao-like. Those who follow the Tao will guide. They who pursue virtue, virtue will reward. They who live by violence, violence will soon destroy. This chapter 23 of the Tao Te Ching, titled Peace, starts out with an incredible kindness. Peace is meant to be our natural state. Have you considered how brief violence is in the natural world? And it moves on very quickly to being a word of warning about using violence instead of peace as a means to attain peace itself. In a world of vast differences between each and every single human being, I mean that even those who we are most close to, our friends, our family, our spouses, our children, those who bring love and joy into our lives, even those people are different from us. And from that naturally arises disagreements. I don't think that it's a stretch to say that most people have disagreements with their parents at some point, that their children are not perfect models of peace in every moment of their life. And those who act with violence become violent, as this book says, but we have the ability to choose a different way when faced with violence. Knowing that imperfection is going to arise, we have a choice about how we're going to deal with this. As part of my purpose in doing this is to examine the connection between the Tao Te Ching and these ancient texts and what arose independently in the founding of America and the creation of capitalism, in the threads of enlightenment that came out of Europe, is to point out instances where these lessons could have also perhaps been better taken. I think one of the things that people get wrapped up in when they talk about the founding of a country, especially if they love a country, if they really believe that this is the best way to do it, is they are hesitant to consider that things could be done better. When we look at the Declaration of Independence and we see Jefferson's words say that these colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, absolved from an allegiance to the British Crown, all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. Goes on to say, with a firm reliance on protection of the divine, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, fortunes, and sacred honors. This was a declaration of the natural state of humanity, and upon being delivered, offered a choice to those who had violated consent. And by this I do specifically mean that there was a parliament that had been dissolved, brought back in, there was a king, there was a monarchy that had a choice faced with this piece of paper delivered, making a very clear statement about what the naturally occurring rights of each and every human being are. There was a choice to pick up and select peace. Faced with separation, faced with independence, faced with not getting along, having disagreements, the removal of consent, saying no to someone else's version of happiness, there's always a peaceful option. The Tao Te Ching has specific guidance for kings and queens, and we're each kings and queens, rulers of our own lives. The Tao Te Ching says, quote, lead without force. Do not control the people, from chapter 10. When great leaders lead, the people are hardly aware of their leadership, chapter 17. Act with virtue, the Tao Te Ching says. As this series will explore further, in each passing moment of lived experience, there is more value in peaceful, consensual love, peace being our natural state, than in the action of violence.